Sup?
All right, everybody. I have on my absolute all-time favorite guest on the podcast, my husband, Vito Presta.
Yo,
Welcome back, my love.
thanks for having me.
You are so welcome.
Feel so honored.
You, you should be. I don't know if you know, but I've had some big people on here. So
I mean, you really have.
It's a big deal.
I did.
So something that we've been talking about a lot lately, and so I threw it out on Instagram about how many kids do you want, and are you in agreement or disagreement with your partner? Because a lot of my friends aren't on the same page, and I don't think that it's like a hard answer,
Okay.
but we have one set of friends who they have two kids and she's done and he wants to go for one more. And then I have another pair of friends who they have three kids and he's done and
Mm-hmm.
she's like, I'm not for sure if I want to close that chapter, like.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we've talked a lot about what we want to do, and there's a lot of different things that go into it. But before we dive into that, I threw it out on Instagram, and I thought that some of the responses were really great. Like, it opens up a ton of conversations. And I know that you can offer a male perspective,
Mm-hmm.
because we do have different roles. We do take on different responsibilities. Like, I guess in our home, I'm predominantly the stay-at-home mom. You're predominantly the provider.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people that wrote in that's pretty similar.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people where the mom's going back to work, and so that's also something to take into consideration when they're family planning. Um, but I wanted to read some of the responses
Okay.
and get some of your feedback on it. Let me just
Yeah, I'd love
find
to
it on
share
here.
the male perspective because I'm sure if this is something that people are writing in, like, oh, they're in a disagreement on, then a lot of times it's just they're not seeing each other's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I can shed some light
Yeah. Yeah.
and explain to you guys why you're wrong.
Okay. You're so
I'm just
funny.
kidding.
Um, okay, so yeah, that was the one couple.
Okay. I was trying to figure out who you were talking about.
That wrote in. Um, and here's a very, very real thing that people look at. So we looked at the reality of finances and agreed on the life that we wanted to give the kids that we already have, but thinking about like, so we wanted the life we wanted to give them. It makes her sad that they're not having anymore, but thinking about an exciting future sure does help get over that. So they want more kids, but like finances is a huge thing that people take into consideration. And when I was reading, so a lot of responses talked about finances, and it's interesting to me because we also grew up like very, very differently.
Mm-hmm.
And my family, I have a million cousins,
Yeah.
and nobody came from money,
Right.
and nobody's parents paid for their college,
Right.
and pretty much almost everybody went to college. Some of them are even doctors and scientists now. Did the good old student loan way,
Mm-hmm.
and that just like wasn't a factor
Yeah.
with my family growing up, and even my family. A lot of my family now, like cousins that I have having big families, like finances isn't necessarily, they're like, oh, we can't afford to have another kid. They're like, we'll just put them here, like it's not. So I feel like I've never really thought about it that way. Um, it's just like never been like, can we afford another kid? Because in my mind, I've always been under the mindset of if we can't pay for their college, they'll figure it out, I guess.
Yeah. So
Because
this
that's
this
just like,
person wrote in. This was a mom
mhm.
wrote in saying that they both want more, but they're both in agreement that they're not financially in that
Well, she said
place.
we looked at our finances and decided, like, and we agreed on the life that we wanted to give our kids.
Sure.
So maybe they looked at their finances and they're like, listen, we want to make sure we have two kids,
Yeah.
and we know that with these two kids we can pay for their college,
Right.
we can
They
pay
have
for their weddings.
specific goals that they
Right.
want.
which is very, very real and
That's
valid.
awesome that they made that decision together.
Right.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah, I think from okay, so from a male perspective, I guess what comes to mind for that is a lot of times like the number one thing when I talk with guys or when I'm coaching guys that are in that transitional stage of life of like, hey, I'm coming out of college, starting a family, whatever it is, and you talk to anybody, all the guys always say is, I want to establish myself
Right,
financially
right.
before I get married. I said it. Like
Yeah.
this is just a normal thing that there's like these pressures on men in society if you run the traditional route. I'm talking specifically the traditional route. That there's these like standards or pressures for men that if we're the financial providers, so guys always think, well, I need to have X amount, I need to have all my debt paid, I need all this stuff, whatever, I need to be making this X amount. And almost always when it comes down to it is when they find the right person, they find reasons to not care as much about the finances. There's the case with us, right, where I was like, I don't know, I don't want to like start a family if I don't have a house, or all these things that are kind of irrelevant. um what I find interesting for me is I never thought about that for having kids.
Mhm.
I think once I got over it with marrying you, then I stopped, like, I was like, oh, it's gonna work out. Like I started having more faith that everything's just gonna work out. And I know for me, when like they talked about the quality of life that they want, that's great that they made those goals and standards for them and it works for them, and that's awesome that they're able to make the decision together. For me, my goal was always have as many kids as possible.
Yeah.
You know, within reason, obviously. Well, if we're going off your family, it's have 8 or 9 kids. Like your cousins are awesome, but also like I wouldn't be able to do. That's kind of out of my realm.
Mhm.
So like 5 would be, whoa, that would be crazy cool. And I similarly with you, it's like, oh, financially, if we can't afford to send them all to college, we're like, okay, but at least we have each other. Like that's always kind of my
Yeah.
thing. With that though, I with each kid we have, and the more responsibility it is at home, I find more pressure to provide more. So it is kind of like coming back at me, but I also am willing to make that sacrifice if it means that we could have more kids. Like I'm willing to
Mhm.
work more. I'm willing to like sacrifice myself if it means that like our kids are going to have more siblings
Mhm.
because that's what I want,
Yeah.
you know.
Right. Right.
But it
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's right.
Mm,
That's just what
well, I don't think that
that's
I
what I
mean,
want.
none of this is like a right or a wrong.
Right.
It's what works for us,
Yeah.
and I'm learning some stuff about you today.
What'd you learn?
A lot. Like I don't know. Like just that you didn't that you weren't necessarily worried about like paying for our kids' college or anything like that because you talk financial goals a ton.
Mhm.
So I just, in my mind, I assumed you were like,
I
because
don't I
even
don't think college is really going to be a thing when our kids
you've
go to
even brought
college.
up
So,
money when we talk about like having more kids. You're like, fine, you know, you've thrown in the word finances and stuff in there, like affording to have another kid and this and that. Like it has come up in our conversations about it.
yeah,
So
it's definitely like I said, it's always on my mind.
yeah,
But for me, like I just said,
yeah,
I'm willing to sacrifice myself if it means that you and the kids can grow and have each other, and you know,
yeah,
obviously I want to be there.
yeah, yeah,
It kills me, but
yeah.
I'd love to have a big family,
Hmm.
which I feel like we already do.
Yeah, I feel depends. So a lot of things like this, like I've always wanted more, even in the beginning. He wanted two. I said four. We have three. I'm not sure I'm done. He says he's done. I flip flop. You know, just a lot. There is a lot of like not on the same page. One woman wrote in and said, I was done. Husband would have one more. And then we had our surprise baby in March. I'm actually finding a lot of those in here. Like a lot of people saying, like, I wanted one more. He was done. And then we had a surprise baby, or vice versa. And it was like, I think the one that like was
Get a lot
saying
of horn dogs listening to your show. Whoops, had another
mating
baby.
people. I mean, the thing is, anytime you're, I mean, you know the risks you're taking.
Right,
So
right,
are there surprise
right,
babies?
right.
Like one of them said it genuine, like it was a surprise. She was like, the pull-out method does not work, like
Ever.
FYI. Um, we might know a little bit about that one.
Yeah.
So,
But that
um,
was your delusion.
what?
Because you were like, oh, we're past ovulation. And I was like, you sure? Like,
Yeah,
and then right when it happened, I was like, well, you're pregnant.
I was like, there's no way. But then we didn't believe it for most of my pregnancy.
Yeah, because you gaslit me into thinking that it wasn't possible.
Whatever. You're the one who was ready to try though, and I was
I know.
not.
That's why I said, are you sure? I'm like, I don't
Um,
care if we have another
a
kid.
lot of like we both have different thoughts, but neither of us are completely shut off. Um,
So
like
I guess I would ask, like, well, what is it then? Like, if you're both open, but you, as husband and wife, you have to dive in. You have to have those conversations. Like, what are we afraid of? Like, what are we avoiding? What's like really happening here? What's the
so
real
I
concern
think
here?
I think so these are a lot of the short answers on here. I do have like a bunch of DMs of longer stories as well. I'll share a couple of those and then I'll share kind of like what I'm thinking. Um, so, and then there's a lot of stories. So here's what I want to clarify too. There's a lot of stories where circumstances change where they're like, we wanted 3 kids and I had like somebody had postpartum preeclampsia twice and like
Mm,
got super like terrible
yeah,
experiences.
sure.
And he was like, I'm done. Like, I can't watch you go through this anymore. It scares me. Like, or
Yeah,
there was a couple people who ended up having like a child with special needs or having a traumatic birth and that like completely
sure,
changed where they're coming from.
sure.
So like yeah, that would
Yeah,
change a lot,
yeah,
you know. So like this one, she wanted 3 to 5 kids, or no, her husband wanted 3 to 5. She wanted 2 to 3. They ended up pregnant with spontaneous twins, and now have 2 3-month-olds. And he said that he would get a vasectomy tomorrow if I won't let
so they
him.
only have two then?
Yeah, she said that he's for sure done. Um, husband really wants a
four
third.
month?
Yeah,
Give him a year.
yeah. Well, it's hard then because
Don't
yeah.
don't do a vasectomy yet.
Um, husband really wants a third, but I don't. We've had a lot of long discussions. Ultimately, he defaulted to my decision because he doesn't want there to be resentment down the line and knows that we are so lucky to have our 2 healthy kids. I wanted 4 until I actually started having them. I would be open to a third if I didn't work and we didn't have and we had additional childcare options. So there's like so many things that play into this. So like
Yeah,
when both people are working and like if we were trying to find childcare for 3 kids and then we're having childcare for 4 kids,
yeah.
like even like your mom helps out a lot. Like if we have 5 kids, that's a lot on her.
She'll quit.
You're like, my parents are never moving. Watch them move. We have 5 kids and they're like,
Yeah.
we're going to
See
Florida
ya, yeah.
all winter, so I'm not available
Yeah.
to babysit. Um, so yeah, I think that there's so many things to consider. Um, and then some people are like, we had 2 girls. He only wanted 2 kids, but then we had 2 girls, so he really wants to try for a boy. Or we have 2 boys and we really want to try for a girl now. So a
Yeah,
lot of things
things
like that.
change always. Once you
Right.
start doing it, or once I mean, having one is life changing. Having two, you're like, holy cow, this is crazy. Having three, you're like, what is happening? You're outnumbered. Everything, everything goes exponentially. And I have no experience with four and above, but the change from two to three, where I was like, damn, like, can we do four? Like you start to question things that you didn't normally think that you would question. So obviously
Right.
things change. What I'm always, I guess the reason why you have me on is more for like the husband's perspective and the father's perspective is like for us, I think it's really important because I'm sure it's just all moms listening, but I'm sure it's really important, moms, that you really try to consider where your husband's coming from.
Mhm.
Like, really listen for even if it's just one conversation. Don't worry about saying what you want to say or voicing your opinion. Like, really try to put yourself in their shoes because it is very, I don't know the word. It's a very weird experience to be a dad, especially in our culture.
Mhm. Well, like for the first year, you kind of just feel like a sperm donor.
Well, not only that, but I'm saying even like in fatherhood,
Got
where
it.
like the expectations that are put on us as fathers and the lack of guidance or community or resources. Like there's so much mom stuff. There's endless mom communities, mom accounts, all this stuff. And there's like dad accounts on social media and stuff, but they're all mostly just like
Funny.
funny.
Yeah. Mhm.
And there's also something about men where we like don't really seek out help. And I don't know if it's because it's societal or if it's ingrained in us, like being alone, but it's not easy being alone in a journey and then having people rely on you. Um, so really all I'm saying, I guess, is really like reach out to your husbands, try to consider where they're coming from and listen to them and try to hear like what they're not saying
Yeah.
and ask a lot of open-ended questions.
Well, this is like such a big decision that it is two perspectives, and you could feel so strongly one way and I could feel so strongly the other way, and we could never see eye to eye on it.
Right.
And that's tough. Um so this one kind of leads me into like what I wanted to mention. It says always agreed on 3, but husband has worked with men who honestly aren't great dads who literally said they regret the third. I still want the third badly and am ready for it. He's more on board now, but still hesitant. And I know if I didn't push it, we'd be done at 2. Um,
So they both want 3, but he's questioning it because the guys he works with suck.
yeah. but I think what can happen, and I think that you can attest to this, is the third kid was a huge game changer for us.
For sure.
And I think that I saw something somewhere, but you lose a part of your life. Like,
Oh yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
you lose a big chunk of me.
For sure.
Like I feel like you're fully there for me, but I with young kids right now can never be fully there for you.
Right, which goes to what I was speaking
Which I
about.
can understand then why some men might be like, you're so like consumed in this right now, which is great, but like I'm ready to have my wife back.
Yeah.
Or like I can't lose you another time
Yeah.
because like
Well,
our relationship might not be able to handle it. Like we barely have time to have sex now.
yeah.
And we talk about that too, and it's like, yeah, we have to fight to like prioritize these different things for sure. Um and I do think that that's a big conversation because there are women who struggle in postpartum and have a ton of anxiety in postpartum and struggle a lot. And the guy's like, I can't do this again.
Yeah. Well, I think you touched on a couple different things. So the one thing you talked about was how like the husband loses the wife. And that's let's speak to this couple. So for the guy's concerned, like his coworkers, listen, if your coworkers are bad dads,
Don't listen to
they're
what they
just bad
say.
dads. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't compare yourself to them. If he's able to see that he doesn't want to be like that, then you're not going to be.
Right.
And don't let yourself be. If you want a third, have a third. If you guys are both on board, like go for it. If you guys are good parents and you care and you give your kids love and stuff, go for it. But I think what you said is absolutely true, and it aligns with what I was saying earlier about like feeling alone in this. Like I have really three best friends, and one of them is my cousin. So these are guys that I've known since we were kids, second grade. That's it. But we don't have the conversations that like you and I have. So really, like you're my best friend, right? Like I talk to them a lot, but I talk to you every day, and like I need you, and I like you're the one that I open up to. You're the one that like I confide in. And after having a third, that doesn't exist anymore. And I feel like we don't even talk about much of anything. And if we do, it doesn't get anywhere because
Right.
there's just three kids. Like it's
It's
distraction, it's
interrupted
interrupted.
something. Yeah.
When I'll call you on my way home from work or something, and I'm like, forget it. Like I'll just talk to you when I get home because it's
They're screaming
they're
in the background.
screaming and crying, or you're not really listening. You're
Yeah.
half listening. I know you are trying, but that's a real thing, and it it amplifies that feeling of being alone.
Mm-hmm.
So it is definitely a, a realistic concern for this guy. Um, and I guess what I remind myself is like it's gonna be worth it. Like this is temporary. Just stay focused. Like
I mean, it does depend on the scope of it, though. Like, you know,
what do you mean?
like it's temporary. I don't know, like their specific
I'm saying
situation.
this stage of life where like
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah,
kids are
yeah.
always interrupting and stuff, like they're gonna grow up.
Right.
We're gonna have time to
But I
ourselves
also
again.
do feel like it's a reality that some relationships might not be able to take 2 more years of postpartum, like depending on how it's handled on both ends.
Yeah.
Like she may be handling postpartum really, really rough and really, really struggles, but he also might not be taking anything off of her plate. You know what I mean?
Be
Like we've
specific.
talked before about how if we have any chance of having sex, it's because you're putting the kids down and I'm cleaning up dinner or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're tag teaming things to get things done, but let's say you got home from work, I make dinner, I put the kids down, I'm cleaning up dinner, I'm doing everything,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're wanting to get it in before bed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like tapped out. And
Mm-hmm.
also mentally I'm like, well, I still have to do this, 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 this. I mean, that list never fully shuts off, but
Yeah.
there's things where I'm like, okay, yeah, I can fold the laundry tomorrow, or let's be realistic, next week. Like I don't, it takes me forever to fold laundry, but like I can put some things on the back burner. But like if you were expecting certain things from me but you weren't helping at all at home, that really wouldn't free me up. And
Yeah.
also I might not want to, like, then it's like or if you every single time you touch me it's because you want to get laid, like then I'd be like, ugh, instead of a sweet kiss here or a butt tap there, like,
Mm-hmm.
do you get what I'm saying?
Not really. I'm
We've
not.
talked about this
I'm
before.
not. I
Like,
don't know what the point of what you're saying is.
so it's a give and take. I'm saying like some people's relationship might not be able to take another kid because the guy's not pulling any of his weight, helping out on those things. So they're having no intimacy, no whatever.
Yeah.
Like there's resentment
Okay.
building.
I can see what you're
There's
saying
resentment from her because he's
for
not
sure.
helping, or there's resentment from him because he's like, we don't have sex
Well, so this
anymore. We
this
don't
was a
do this. We don't do
conversation
that.
you and I had the other night,
Mm-hmm.
briefly, because it wasn't going well. But what I was alluding to was like, okay, let's say we want a fourth, which we both do, and the reality is, so let's say these people want a third. A third is a game changer. So let's talk about the third. If you both want a third, but you're both not really grasping the reality that it is a lot of work, then your relationship might not be ready for it. You have to understand that like it is work, like a lot of work. It's not just like, oh, let's keep growing our family. It's okay, every time you do it, it's work. Like it takes a lot of effort and patience and organization and all these things that it takes to just get things done. So when you're saying like they're gonna have a third and the husband's not pulling his weight, like of course, but if the husband wants a third, he needs to know, hey, this is gonna be a lot of work, right? And if he's not on board with that, then it's like, well, your relationship's gonna suffer. It's just going to. But if you're willing to accept that this is a lot of work and you're willing to put the work in and understand that, hey, your relationship's gonna take a hit regardless, and you're okay with that because you're willing to put the work in and stay up late and have a conversation, or like be compassionate or be empathetic and be like, hey, I know you had a hard day, whatever, let's snuggle, or just like try to work on your relationship too. Like that's just life, you know. With that being said, you're and I know you're just doing it for the sake of brevity, but there are a lot of moms who don't pull their weight.
Yeah.
And there are, because I speak to a lot of guys, there are times where the guy's pulling the weight of the mom and he's like, screw you. Like it takes a hit in the relationship that way, where the husband's working all day, gets home, and the mom just checks out and is like, they're yours now. Where there's no whatever, they haven't set you know the stage of like, this is how it's going to be when you get home from work, or even if they both get home from work. Like I know moms who just check out when the dad gets home, and that will take a hit in the relationship. I know there's like this whole thing out there with the mom community that like, oh, my husband this and that. And I'm sure it's common. I'm not downplaying that at all, but there is a reality too that some women, some moms really don't, like, they just check out. And like in the same case of, let's say I came home and just cracked open a beer and watched TV while you did everything.
Yeah.
In that same case, flip it where the mom just checks out and goes and scrolls Instagram or whatever, takes a bath for 3 hours, whatever it is that women do when they check out. I don't know. Go read a book or something. I don't know. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The,
No, it
the
goes both
feelings,
ways.
the feelings be mutual. And
Well, you
I know we've had. I'll speak with for us, my relationship. I know that there's been days where I'll get home super late and I'll have to like do a ton of stuff just to like whatever. And I know that I have to stop myself from going down a path of like getting angry and being more compassionate of like, this isn't a common thing. Like she's working her butt off. She's putting like, and I have to like put myself in your shoes so that I don't go down that path. But I can see when I talk with guys why they do go down that path, and I can see it being a common thing.
I think that it's what I was saying earlier and like what you said, it's like a mutual understanding, and you have to kind of have that, and you have to be able to have conversations,
You have to be able to have
and
a
you have to be able
conversation.
to
Yeah.
like hold each other accountable to like different things, and also understand that every day is different,
Right.
and keep an open conversation and be like, okay, like
That's why I always get nervous when people are dating and they're like, "Oh yeah, I think if we got married, it'd get better." I'm always like,
oh
"What?" I think if we had a kid, it would
yeah,
really help our
no,
relationship.
none of
What?
that fixes
It's like, no, no, no. You
anything.
gotta have these conversations now. You gotta like build your relationship before you do these things. And sometimes, whoopsie, we're having a third. Okay, well now you only have a couple months to really work on your relationship and really make it a priority, because you're about to like take on another huge responsibility that I felt exponentially grew our stress. Like having one was like a life changer. Having two, you were like, okay, trying to figure it out. But having three, I was like, what what is going on?
3 was a game changer for us, but I think it is different for everybody. Like, I know moms, so for me, the hardest for me was going 0 to 1, for me personally,
Okay.
um, mentally. Like, that rocked.
Well, you were crying when you were pregnant. You're like, what am I gonna do if I don't get 12 hours of sleep?
Yeah,
Now you haven't had sleep in 4 years.
jeez, 12 hours of sleep sounds so good. I would love 12 hours of sleep. Um, but yeah, 0 to 1 rocked my world. I think 2 to 3 has just, I don't think rocked my world, but like I still don't feel like I fully have my bearings, and he's almost 1.
Yeah.
It makes it
I feel
harder
like we're
because
struggling with three.
it makes it harder because he like doesn't nap either. So like that, and I spend so much time trying to get him to nap, but I have to because I have to get him to nurse. If not, then I get
You know what we should
mastitis.
do?
What?
Because you think that our girls napped. You should go back and listen to the podcast of you talking about how they never napped.
They did nap.
Okay. You should go back and
especially at this
listen.
age.
You should go back and listen.
You should go back and
Literally none of
listen.
our kids napped.
You should go back and
I
listen.
will.
Tula was a great napper until
Until she was 4 months old and
no, Tula was a great napper until a little over 2,
okay.
until I couldn't nurse her to sleep for naps anymore.
Okay.
Um so yeah, I think the open conversation is like super super important.
And to go back to that guy, to compare yourself to people you know are crappy fathers, like don't do that. Look to people who you see as like a good role model as a father, as a man, and look to them. Like you can't take advice from guys who are selfish and don't really value their wives or their families, and they're like, oh, 3, I regret it. How do you regret having a child? Like if you're in a happy marriage, I that's hard for me to grasp.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
So I wouldn't
Um
look to them for sound
right.
advice.
My husband and I originally both wanted 4 kids, then after 3 we agreed that actually that was enough. We were so sure that my husband got a vasectomy. Now my youngest is 3 and he wants to get it reversed and have
Oh
another
no.
one. I'm still very much convinced 3 is enough.
Oh no. Snip snip.
Um so if we weren't 35 and he hadn't had the vasectomy, then maybe I could get on board. I sometimes wonder what life would
Sounds
be
like
like
she
with
wants
4th,
one.
but
The baby's 3.
their youngest is 3. So I think that that also plays a role into it. So our lives are also so chaotic because like none of our kids are in school. Like so my cousin just had their 3rd baby. Their oldest is 8. And she just posted something on Instagram. She's like highly recommend this cuz like her 8-year-old is like a little mom.
Yeah.
She's so helpful. Like she's so easy. She can get her own snack. Like she can take care of herself
Yeah.
and the baby. Like she's
Right.
fine. So like age gaps I think also play a big role into this as well. Like we had 3 within 3 years and 2 months.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. Like Jovi just turned 4 last month, Carlos turning 1 next month. And we have
Yeah.
1 in the middle. So it's it would be different if like Jovi was in school all day and you know what I mean? Like people it's different when you
Yeah, but
have
this is
kids
what
doing
we
different
talked
things.
about and planned. This was our decision.
No, right, but I'm saying what people are writing in,
Hmm.
like all of these play a role into how many kids
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have
for sure.
or like not yet, let's wait until this one is in
But
preschool
the
or
whole
whatever.
question was like, are you on the same page with your partner?
Right. Right.
Which it sounds like they both want a 4th now. And if you can get it reversed and you're good parents,
Yeah.
you should do it.
This is
I always encourage good parents to have as many kids as possible. We need
um
more kids with good parents.
this one makes sense to me for sure. My situation is the husband not wanting to take the risk associated with a 5th cesarean. At first, newly postpartum,
5
I wanted to
cesareans?
still go for it after waiting for the appropriate time, but have come to realize that too much risk as well. Um, yeah, I think you would feel the same way for sure.
Wasn't it like dangerous?
There's significant risk that increase, especially placenta accreta, which is not great. So
I
I
wouldn't care about the what word did they use? The stereotypes?
this no, just my situation, not wanting to take the risk associated with a 5th cesarean. I
Oh,
still
sure.
wanted to go for it after waiting the appropriate time, but have come to realize that too much risk as well.
Yeah,
So that
I
does
would
play a
not
factor
I
too.
would
And
not
that's
be cool with
something that I
that.
talk to a lot of women about with cesareans. So, like, one thing that your doctor doesn't ask you once you've had one, like, or if they're like, oh, hey, like,
Are you
your
planning on
baby's
having more?
breech, you're right. They're not like, hey, are you planning on having more babies? Like, after you've had one cesarean, the next time around, they're not giving you the VBAC options and asking, hey, like if you what's your family size? What are your goals? Like
Right.
if you just want 2 kids, sure, let's have a repeat C-section, but if you want a big family, then we should really try for that VBAC cuz that decreases those risks.
Yeah.
Which stinks cuz most women are not offered that
Yeah.
at all. So it
Yeah.
does definitely play a role. For him, he didn't want kids before we met, but then knew it was a non-negotiable for me. He then went from 0 to 1 or 2 and was open for more. Our second was super hard baby. We almost stopped at 2, and then one day he just changed his mind to 4. I've asked him so many times what changed his mind. He just said, I don't know. I just think I decided that hard is okay. And I know that you've always wanted a big family. Thankfully, our third baby is an easy, chill baby. So going for 4 isn't something we're debating. We're both all in now. I like that hard is okay.
Yeah, good for him.
Um,
But do you see what happened there?
what happened?
He went from wanting no kids
Yeah.
because in his mind, and he said hard is okay. So in his mind, he didn't want a hard life, and having kids was hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what that tells me.
And then you deal with it, and you're like, I can do it.
Right. And a big question that men have, dude, Hutch is snoring so loud.
Oh, really? I can't hear him.
A big question that men have is, do I have what it takes? Like that's
Yeah.
the ultimate question that we go through is, do I have what it takes? Do I have what it takes to be a good husband? Do I have what it takes to be a good father? Do I have what it takes to own my own business or to whatever? Like that is a subconscious underlying, maybe it's a conscious question that all men tackle in their life is, do I have what it takes? And depending on how you were raised, depending on what you did in your childhood or your high school years, whatever, did you avoid um, conflict or challenging things, or did you go after it? And you know, all these things play a role in the man's development. But what I hear there is, yeah, he was probably like, obviously, I want love. I want to meet someone that I love. And then he met someone who wanted a big family. And as a man, he's like, I want to give her what she wants. And then he slowly gained confidence and was like, yeah, hard is okay.
Yeah.
And he changed the narrative around, he found out he did have what it takes. And then once you start thinking I have what it takes, then it's like, yeah, let's do 5. Let's go for 6.
Um,
So good for him. That's
well,
awesome.
I do
Whoever
like
wrote that
that
in.
too,
That's great.
because one thing that we talk a lot about, I was actually just talking to my sister about it too, is that like we just live in a society that like we're so uncomfortable with discomfort or things that are hard. And so we're not like set up for success, like when it comes to these things, but nobody's preparing you that life is hard and that's okay. Like life is never going to go perfectly easy for everybody. What?
Nothing.
Um, so like one of the mottos in our home is I can do hard things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that like we really want to teach our kids because it is such a mental game and something that I've definitely struggled with. I was never pushed to do anything hard. Or if I sucked at it, I was like, all right, I'm gonna quit this. I think that giving birth kind of helped with that a little bit and a few things that like I've done in my life, but we're very uncomfortable with discomfort and it's like that's what parenting is. It's
Yeah.
what relationship, marriage, everything.
Yeah.
You have to be comfortable with it. This person said, best advice I got was the person not wanting them doesn't automatically win or trump the one wanting them. It took me 8 years to convince him for a third. Never give up. Now we're considering a fourth.
Wow.
At one point, I was so passionate about it. But that is true. It's hard. Like, why does one person's decision just trump the other person's? And this was something that I wanted to talk to you about too, because, like I said, before we do fall into like the kind of like traditional roles, but I feel like like as a woman, I feel like I have like I'm connected with my body and my body is the one that like houses and births our children.
Sure.
So obviously you have to take that into consideration. If I was strongly like, no, I cannot put my body through this again, like you would take it into consideration. But also if I'm like, I intuitively feel like my body's not done
Mm-hmm.
bringing life into this world. Like I would want you to take that into consideration too.
Yeah.
What's the look on your face?
No, I think I wouldn't have a kid if we weren't both on board. First and foremost, if you were like absolutely not, then I'd be like, okay, because I'm not gonna. You go through a ton of physical, hormonal, everything. Your whole, I mean, literally, like you said, you're growing the baby and you're housing the baby, all that stuff. So I'm not going to do that to you if you're not on board, right? Like, this is us. We are one. I truly believe that. We are one. Like, we make this decision together.
So if I was like, I'm done at 3.
I would do my best to convince you to have more,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't just like impregnate you.
Well, hopefully.
Right? Yeah, I'm sure there are people who've done it.
Jeez.
Yeah, no, we'd have to be. I would, because then I know because we do more traditional um, roles. Like, this is a baby that you're going to be raising for the most part. Like, I don't want you raising it with resentment and then having it be all jacked up because of it. With that being said, if you're like, oh, I know intuitively I need another one, I would still be like, and let's say I was not wanting another one,
Mm-hmm.
we would have a conversation. And ultimately, you wouldn't want, just like this person waited 8 years, she's not just going to be like, lie and be like, oh, yeah, go for it. Like, everything, I'm past my ovulation, knowing that she isn't. Like, she
Not
didn't
gonna
do
trick
that.
him.
Right. She waited 8 years because at the end of the day, you both have to be on the same page. It is the most important, you know, consequential decision you're going to make. You don't just make it with one person and then
Right,
have the other
right.
person deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how you negotiate that, just have the conversation.
Right.
But you also see that she didn't give up and she didn't like, that sounds like it was a very brief snippet, but a
Yeah.
healthy relationship where it's like, hey, we have to work through these differences together. And you do that, you grow together. Now they're considering a fourth, like, cool, they got over a hurdle, but some people resent each other. Like, you can't allow yourself to get there.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Yeah. I think that it would be very, very tough if we were highly opposed.
You just got to
Like,
work through it. You got to respect each other. If we both have
right,
very different views on it, you have to find common ground,
right.
and someone's gonna have to grieve about it. Someone's gonna have to give if
Mm-hmm.
it's like that extreme
Mm-hmm.
of beliefs around it. Like, I really want one, you really don't.
So one person wrote me, and I can't find it now, and she said her husband was done. I
Mm,
think they had 3 kids. She wanted a fourth, and he was like, absolutely not. And she's like, I think it's really important to ask yourself why. Like, why do I want another kid? And she's like, so I really thought about it, and I just realized that my kids bring me so much joy. And then I came to peace that, like, I have so much joy with my kids now. Like, I
mm,
don't need another kid to bring more joy. I'm
mm.
full of joy with these kids I have now. And she was
Yeah,
like able to come to peace for
good
it.
for her.
So I liked that why.
Yeah,
Like, is it just because you want a big family? I mean, there could be a bunch of different reasons, and some aren't necessarily right or wrong, but
your
some
reason is I don't like odd numbers.
which I just said nothing's right or wrong here.
Yeah.
So I don't. We go to an amusement park, somebody's by themselves.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You don't either. You
I'm
said
saying it's such a ridiculous reason to be like, no, we're having four because I don't like odd numbers. It's a
it's
bogus
not the
reason.
only reason. Um so yeah, it's not the only reason why. There's multiple reasons why. But I do think that yeah, I think that you definitely have to like come to terms at some point. And I did say that, like, we'd say where we're at on here. And I think we both want more kids. I mean, you said like we both would like a fourth. We're figuring out like what, if we could handle that, what that would look like. Can we handle it? We don't want our kids, they're so close in age, so we wouldn't want one like way spaced out, but yet neither of us want to get pregnant right now. Like,
I'd be open to it
what?
if,
We just talked the other day.
babe, if,
If I
if,
met your terms.
yeah, if you met my terms. If you
If
met
I
my
met your
terms,
terms,
yeah.
then you'd be open to
If
it.
you met my terms,
Because at this point,
for sure.
babe, at this point,
Yeah.
with each other kid,
Uh-huh.
we've been pregnant.
Yeah, I don't want to wait anymore.
I
I
do.
don't want to wait anymore. The reason why I won't impregnate you, you're welcome, is because it is my duty as the head of the household, as the provider, whatever, that I have to set our family up for success, which is happiness and peace.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't think that we're happy and there's peace in our home for sure. But I think that adding a fourth, the way we have things now, would not continue that, in my opinion. You disagree,
Mm-hmm.
but
I'm not ready to get pregnant. So you would get pregnant right now if I would sign the contract of your terms. And I don't want to get pregnant right now. I would say like in 6-ish months, start trying.
hmm
And um, there are definitely things that I agree with you that I think need to shift or change. And like a couple other things, I think it's just going to be, I think you have some unrealistic expectations.
No, see, now you're starting to talk like my mom. I was thinking about this the other day,
Oh, geez.
and I think what you told her applies to this too. I don't have unrealistic expectations,
No, but I said that to you the other day. I said that you are so amazing.
but
No, I didn't say a but. I'm like, you just function at this level all the time. Like you're a high level, you're so productive and so like at home, at work, like always. You're a get it done person. You're just this very high functioning. If you want to read this book, you're going to do it. If you want to accomplish this task, you're going to check it off and you have no problem doing that. And just like the way that your mind works, it's like, okay, I got to get these things done. Check, check, check. And you're always productive and always going. In my mind, you're like a hard boiled egg and I'm just like a cracked egg. my
I've
mind,
never been described as a hard-boiled egg before.
I'm an over easy runny yolk, and my mind just cannot function that way. And you'll be like, well, just try this tip or try this thing. And I'm like, as much advice as you want to give me, like we are just completely different people when it comes to that stuff. And so I don't think you have unrealistic expectations. I think it's hard for you sometimes to grasp. You're like, but it was so easy. I just got everything done. I
It
don't
wasn't
understand.
easy. That's why I get. Go ahead,
No,
finish.
not
Sorry.
that it's not easy. You're just like, you just get it done. You just do it. And I don't understand why everyone else in the world can't just
I don't
do it.
understand. I will never understand.
Right.
I won't. I won't. I can't, because what you just said is so wrong
What's wrong?
and right at the same time. Okay? Because the way you described how I just like get it done, and that it's just so easy. Oh, just get it done. Like it's so easy. It's not, and that's not how my brain works. And that's what frustrates me, is because I have very similar struggles that you have. I do. I do. And that, like, it is hard for me to focus. Like, I'll start cleaning the laundry room and then like start cleaning the kitchen, or whatever it is. Like, I get distracted just like you. Like, everything that I hear you say, what's hard for you, I have those things too. Maybe because I just was forced to at an early age to really just like squash. It's gonna sound bad, but like to squash my feelings, and not in a way of like you can't be expressive, because we're Italian, we're very emotional. Like, okay, so it's not about squashing your feelings. It's like when something needs to get done, I learned from a very, very young age. It doesn't matter how frustrated you are, you have to get it done. So just stop being frustrated, because being frustrated isn't helping. Like, that's how I was raised. Like, don't tell me you can't do it. The amount of times I heard that, don't tell me you can't do it. So when I hear you say like, "Oh, it's just easy for me," or "Oh, like that's just how your mind works," it's not. It really isn't.
It is, but you were like trained that way. I was
But I
never
struggle.
forced or
I
pushed
struggle with it.
to do anything my entire life.
I get that, but I still struggle with it. It's
Mhm.
still, I don't want to wake up. Like, I got to wake up at 4 in the morning tomorrow and
Mhm.
I got to go work for 2 hours before work even starts.
Mhm.
And then I got to come home and be a dad and then not sleep
Trick or
at night.
treating.
Yeah, I got to trick or treat tomorrow, and then and then not sleep and then physically labor for another 10, 12 hours. Like, and that's day after day after day after day after day without any days off. Like 6 days. Okay, we have Sunday off, but then Sunday I'm like doing stuff around the house. So this isn't something that, like, oh, this is just how I work. Like, it's something I struggle with a lot. And I think it is to the point where it probably isn't a good thing that, like, even on Sundays I can't relax, because in my head, if I allow myself to, like, give into that inner voice, then it's going to be even harder to start back up. That's why, like, I don't relax on vacation. I think I almost have it worse than you mentally. But because I fight it every single day, that's why it's frustrating for me when I see people where they're like, "Oh, I can't. Oh, it's too hard." I'm like, in my head, I'm like, "Yeah, everything is hard. Just, you have to get it done." You know? And maybe I'm just like angry because I can't relax. I would love to relax. But that's,
We're two very different personality types.
I get it, but what I'm saying is I'm sure we're actually more
I
similar.
get that. I get that. I get that you struggle too.
I do, and I can't stand because people, I grew up, oh, Vito's got a six pack. He doesn't do anything. He eats what he wants. And it's like, you have no idea how I don't stop moving. You don't have no idea how I don't stop working. Like, I just always hated when people were like, oh, that's just, oh, he's just naturally this and that. It's like, I'm not. And then when I see people that I really care about, like, even, let's just talk me and you, how, like, for years I was like, you have to stop saying that things are hard, right? Like, that was a big conversation of ours.
Yeah.
Like, because saying things are hard is not helping anything. And it doesn't invalidate that it's hard. It is hard. But talking about how hard it is isn't helping. Like, it's not, it's making it worse, actually. Right? And you don't. I mean, you do it much less now. And has it helped or no?
Yeah. Well, I think what I'm coming to terms with, like after 3 kids, a few things, like part of it is just kind of the acceptance of this is the season of life that I'm in, and nothing can prepare you for it. It looks a lot different. And I compare myself a lot to people that are in similar seasons, but also have different circumstances. And
Much different circumstances.
I think that I should be a lot more like working on my business and this and that and what, and it ends up just not. So
Spiraling.
yeah. So I think that a lot of it's like coming to terms with the reality of my life, but also the reality of what I want. And I definitely love doula work. I love the podcast. I'm so excited about the course I created. Um, I also really want to focus on my kids.
Yeah.
And I feel torn a lot. And I don't like who I am trying to be a stay at home working mom.
Sure.
I don't think that I function as well as I could because of distraction.
Sure.
Like getting on Instagram to like post about something, but or opening my phone and automatically going to Instagram or something like when I'm went to go check the weather for the day.
Right.
Um so, I think that trying to figure that out also with like nothing that I used to do in my life before becoming a mom, I feel like is a part of my life now. And
Which is natural.
yeah, but nothing like
Not nothing.
a
You're
lot.
still rocking my world.
But I mean, just the travel, being outdoorsy, like journaling, just even things that I used to love to write. Like, I'm not doing that anymore.
But
I'm
that's
not working out right now. Like, things that make me feel good, I'm not doing. And that plays into it. So
but
I
there are
have to
other
find a
things that are
way.
making you feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have to find a way to fit those other things that like fill my cup
Mm-hmm. Can
and
I
are
help
and are
you?
healthy for not right now. Not
Can I
on
help
air.
you?
Not on air.
Can I help you? Because we just talked about how you used to say how hard everything was, and
Mhm.
it took a while for you to stop doing that, and things became less hard, even though they didn't. They
Right.
emotionally became less hard. They
Mhm.
mentally became less hard.
Right.
Okay.
It's
Then
like I'm a mom of 3 young
right,
kids.
of
Yeah.
course, yeah, of course. Hello, this is work. Like, hello, let's move on. It's hard. Okay, we understand it's hard. Move on. Okay, like that's something that you've done, and it's made your life
I also
better.
want to clarify though, like for us, like it was a problem. Like for me, like saying it was hard, it was very much, you can say it, you can have conversations and say, man, this is really hard and feel very validated in
Yeah.
that. It was playing very much into like a victim mentality for me.
Okay. Perfect. Ready?
What?
The next phrase that you have to stop, and we've talked about
Oh,
this, you
jeez.
have to stop, is the my mind just doesn't work this way.
Yeah.
I am ba ba da ba da.
Yeah.
Okay. These are
Mhm.
all, can I swear? This is all BS.
Mhm.
This is all nonsense that you've convinced yourself of over whatever amount of years for whatever reason, and it is not serving you. And when I hear it, that's when my frustration goes through the roof because it's like you are okay, and then you look at me and you're like, no, that's how you are, and it's like, no, no, no. Because
But
I
can you agree
know,
that obviously we're two different people, our minds work very, very differently?
I think that our minds work similarly, except for how we react is very different. Because I think our initial thoughts are very similar of like, I can't do this, I'm not built for this. I have those thoughts, but my reaction is squash that and do it. And your reaction is let's dive into this more about how I'm not enough. And then you'll just spiral into I'm not enough, and then I'm like, stop, please, for the love of God, like this needs to get done. Stop sulking in this lie that you're not enough or that your mind isn't made for this. It's like you are perfectly made in the image of God. You are built perfectly to handle 4 kids and a home. This is what you were built for. And if the listeners don't agree with this, I'm talking to my wife right now. So mind your business. Do you understand? Like there's nothing wrong with you. Your mind is perfect for this. Okay? You as a woman are built differently to handle motherhood.
Mhm.
Okay? So sulking and diving into the I'm not enough or I need to be doing this or like I can't my mind this and whatever you're telling yourself that's not serving you, you have to in the moment squash it and say that is a lie and remind yourself something, whatever is good, whatever is pure, whatever is all that stuff. You are built for this. You do have the mind to complete a task. You do have a mind to throw away the diaper after you change Carlos' diaper. You know, like you are built for this. And that's where my frustration comes. Just like when I was frustrated when you were saying how everything was hard and now you don't and your life's better, even though it is still equally as hard. This, I promise you, will
I get it. I definitely think like it's easier said than done, and it's a
for sure,
practice. It's not just something that like flips overnight.
for sure.
And I think in the 5 years that we've been married, I think that I've changed a lot for the better because of you. Like you've helped me through a lot. Um and I do take your advice and I work on it. I also don't think that you're right all the time. Like you think that you're right all the
But
time and that you have
I,
all of the
I
answers all
don't,
of the
I
time.
don't.
And here's the solution to your problem. So just do this and
This is the
everything will be
next step. I didn't
fixed.
say this is the solution. This is the
Yeah.
next step.
Hmm.
I don't have all the
So if I
answers.
agree to the
For
terms,
you are my wife. I know you better than
sign the
anybody.
contract,
It's not a
bring on baby
contract.
number
It's
4.
not a contract. You
I
just have to
will
stop
not
lying to
complain about
yourself.
my mind.
No, you will speak positively of yourself.
Yeah. I
You
do.
will,
I've had some really bad like negative self-talk
oh my
lately.
God. And then it's like, and then you just like, you you spiral, and then you're like, I quit. I'm out. I'm like, where are you going? What are you doing? Like you'll come back from a walk and be like,
Okay, that was one time.
no, I'm just saying like this is
One time.
maybe you don't go for a walk, you just like
Oh,
kind
Hutch
of
heard the
spiral, and
words.
then you're like, all right, I'll quit. Oh, sorry, but we're not. It's late, you know.
Yeah.
But that would be, yeah, my, if we're talking about like where are we at with our next kid, we're gonna have four, God willing,
God willing.
but the self
I'd
talk
say
needs to
no,
change.
no matter what, whether it's birthed or adopted, we're gonna have four.
Yeah, but nonetheless, the mindset needs to change,
I know. I think that I do make it a lot harder on myself.
and that's where I'm like, I'm not gonna add another, because we don't know what four is like. Everyone says, oh, after three, it's whatever. I don't know, but I know three was a game changer. So I'm not gonna bring another kid into an unknown world where like I'm not gonna be there most of the day and just kind of like throw you to the wolves until I know that you're speaking kindly to yourself.
Cool, cool, cool.
Yeah, yeah, I love myself and stuff, you know?
Which is where those other things come. Like I said, I'm not doing the things that make me feel good.
Right. So,
So journaling and working out and doing those things, I think, are going to help shift
uh-huh.
some of that too.
And
So
off social media and off comparing yourself to these people who have way more help than we do, and off the idea that you need to be doing everything always all the
where's
time.
the contract?
I'll write up a contract, but I don't need we don't need a contract. This
I'm
is so
just
silly.
kidding. These are the terms that Vito has. Um,
I just want you to do less. God bless.
do less, God bless. Do less, but do more.
But do more. Because when you do less, you'll have more to do more.
Yes, I know. Less of this, more of that. But yeah, so we're somewhere in there. And then Vito even goes between like wanting 4 and 5 kids.
Listen, if I were to double my income
So
and not
finances do
break,
play a role.
for sure, I didn't say they didn't.
Yeah.
For sure they do.
Mm-hmm.
It costs a lot to feed a family.
Yeah.
And then we're like, oh, we got to have chickens. And it's like, okay, what's that going to cost?
Literally, Tula eats an entire steak herself.
Right. I can't wait to see who she becomes. She's awesome.
She's so funny.
She's awesome.
She's so sweet and
She's so
so
sweet.
feral.
Yeah.
Mixed.
She's the girl from the Flintstones, the little girl. What's her name?
Bam Bam? No.
No, Bam Bam's
Pebbles.
sister. Pebbles.
Something like that.
It's her.
Yeah.
Cute little bow tie, but we'll like throw a rhinoceros.
She's so funny. But yeah. Yeah. So we do want more kids, figuring it out. Not right now.
Communicate with your husbands. Try to put yourself in their shoes. Understand that they are alone in this, and try to be there for them. I understand that being a mom is very time consuming, but let them know that you appreciate them.
Yeah.
Which you do a good job of.
Yeah.
But it goes a long way.
Well, thanks. I love you. I value your opinion. I'm glad that you came on the podcast. What?
No,
Yeah, and I'm excited for everybody to hear this episode. So thank you so much for listening. I'll have all the links in the show notes to my freebies, the course, all of that stuff. So
the course is great. I went through it. It's a lot of information. It covers everything. I thought you did an amazing job.
thanks.
It's on your website, elizabethjoy.co. It would be a great gift, I think, for someone who's having like their first kid or even their second, or someone who maybe didn't have like the greatest experience.
Yeah, I think it's more tailored toward repeat moms. Like so many people reach out to me and they didn't have the experience they wanted the first time. Their plan got thrown out the window. So it's really trying to like empower and equip them. But definitely first time moms could take it too.
And people can buy it for other people. You can buy it as a gift. You just send them the link, and
yeah,
I'm proud of you.
thanks.
It's really good.
Thank you.
You put a lot of effort into it, and you're super sexy in the videos, which is
Oh, thanks. I thought you were about to say like I'm
a
super
plus.
smart when it comes to birth or something,
Well,
but
that too, which is kind of
I'm a birth research nerd,
yeah.
but
Studies show.
remember.
Actually, did you know this?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Check it all out. And he'll be on the podcast again soon,
Did
with
you?
some exciting
Yeah.
episodes coming your way. All right. Bye bye.